we are constantly talking about all these green tech advancements and these cool toys to play with, but let's forget about all that for right now. Because, like, what if we don't even need all of these toys? They catch our eye because they're sexy, but something less sexy, but that is just as important to talk about is dirt. Yeah, dirt. And unless you're a farmer or working construction, you probably don't think very much about dirt to begin with. But it is so important to think about the soil and to keep soil healthy worldwide. Because soil can hold up to 3 times as much carbon dioxide as living plants and 2 times as much as is contained in the atmosphere. And we have to be careful because estimates show that if we continue down this route of exhausting the soil, there are almost 850 billion tons of carbon dioxide that could be released into the atmosphere, which is more than the last 30 years of worldwide emissions combined. So what can we do? Well, you can watch all the way to the end of this interview that I did with Aswin, who is a volunteer with the Isha Foundation, and he has made it his mission to spread the awareness around the soil crisis and what he believes is the one-stop shop for mitigating climate crisis, food scarcity, and many other environmental and societal issues. So, Aswin, can you tell us a little bit about you and how you got involved with the Isha Foundation?
Hi, really. Nice to see you. So, my name is Aswin. So, I've been a volunteer in the Isha Foundation for quite some time. Volunteer in the sense, it's a spiritual organization. So, I volunteer for the classes that they take and a lot of other social welfare measures or activities that they undertake. Isha Foundation has been involved in such activities since 1998. So they started a campaign called Project Green Hands back then. So, and they hold a Guinness record for planting the most number of trees. I think it was around 887,000 trees by a single organization. And they wanted to basically bring green cover in that area where the foundation's center is. So they did that, and after that they started something called as River Vitalization Project, and then now they've taken up, especially the founder of Isha Foundation, Sadhguru, he has taken up this Save Soil initiative. They started something called as Conscious Planet. It's a movement to bring consciousness to the humankind in the sense, whatever we do without being consciously involved in the activity which we do, we end up messing up with the world. We see the world as how we can make use of all the things that are around us. We never realize that they all make up who we are. They are just supporting us. If any one of the factors that are there around us is not there, we will not live. So unless we take care of those things, we will not be able to sustain human life or any life on this earth. So this kind of awareness, not just an emotional thing or a kind of an agitation or against any corporatization or industrialization, nothing like that. It's just bringing the appropriate awareness to or attention to the most necessary aspects of life, so that the countries across the globe pays attention to the most vital things on the planet. So as I just heard Sadhguru talk about how the soil is degraded across the globe and how it could impact the lives on the planet. Man, I cannot stop talking about it. And being a father, I will not leave my child in a scenario where there is food crisis and people migrate across the globe. And I don't want to see my child in such a situation. So this is one of the reasons why I took up this initiative of spreading the word.
Definitely. That's great. And how old is your child?
He's just 5 months old.
5 months old. What is his name?
His name is Aditya.
Aditya?
Yeah. It's a Sanskrit word for the sun.
Oh, cool. Very cool. That's awesome. And you also, there's a lot of things that you had said that I really want to unpack some more because there's a lot of really great things in there. So when were you first introduced to Sadhguru?
I seldom talk about this, but the thing is, I was volunteering for one of my institutions that I studied. I'm a chartered accountant by profession. So I was just witnessing the program that was happening on behalf of the institution from outside. I was volunteering for the program, and I was just looking through the window, the things happening inside the hall. So that time, it was, I think, way back in 2017 or 2019, somewhere around that time. Not in 2017, like 2010 or something like that. So I was just looking at the venue, looking inside the venue through the window. That's when I saw Sadhguru, who was a chief guest of that program. I never knew that he will open up a new window for me in life. So after
Right.
that, this was the first time I met him. Actually, it just struck me. I mean, I just had a peek into the hall through the window, and I saw him getting some mementos or something like that, and that actually was a starting point. And after that, I've been through a lot of other situations, bad situations in life, quite some time. And those times, I used to watch some motivational videos on YouTube. And at the time, I just ran into videos uploaded by Sadhguru and Isha Foundation and their flagship program called Inner Engineering. So I badly wanted to enroll for Inner Engineering, and that was in December 2016. That's when I saw him, and he initiated me into the yogic practices. And that's how the journey started. And from then on, I've been volunteer. Asia Foundation is run by volunteers. There is no fixed employee. That there is no employee-employee relationship there. There are full-time volunteers who are there in the ashram throughout the year, or there are part-time volunteers like me. So we just try to do whatever best we can to people and life around us. So.
Definitely. Well, that's really important too. We don't all have the ability to go out and give full-time efforts to everything. We just don't have the resources or don't have the capability or don't have the interest to go full-time things, but there is still really a great importance to those people that can just donate the time that they have and donate the part-time efforts that they can do, because it's still very important. And like what you're doing here today, I mean, you're not full time there, but you're giving some of your time, you're donating that to the Isha Foundation to spread the word about what they do. And that's really great. And there's another thing I wanted to ask a little bit more here about, you mentioned how they also have a lot of other teachings for the Isha Foundation about inner engineering and things like that. So it's so much more than just the work that they're doing to save the soil or planting the trees, but they're really an organization helping round out all parts of human life, right?
So yes, they've been running a lot of rural rejuvenation programs and they even run Isha School for the children who cannot afford education and free yoga classes in rural areas. And also they train people to teach yoga as well. So the core activity is bringing yoga as part of everyone's life. So that's a core activity, but that does not end there, because everything that they do is so emotionally connected, and they realize the other things as part of themselves. And that's how he goes on to say yoga means union, which means you are one with the cosmos. So which means there is no individuality. So everyone is everything and everyone is part of you. So they just reach out wherever their help is needed. So that's how they take part in various activities. So the core activity is, as I said, yogic teaching, and they do have schools for downtrodden children. They help rural people by giving them the necessities during tough times, and a lot of activities they do. Apart from that, that the major initiatives, as I told, is the environmental issues that they've taken up. They've been recognized by UN, World Economic Forum, and he's been speaking across a lot of such forums for so many years. And I think tomorrow there is COP conference, and he's attending that, and he's addressing 197 nations in the conference. Yes. And he's been traveling, he's on his journey to travel for 30,000 kilometers as a single motorcyclist. He's on his journey, and today is 50th day, and 50 more days are remaining. I seriously hope that this video comes up before he completes his journey, so he can spread the word even more. But the crux is this, really. So the UN Convention for Desertification, Combat of Desertification, UNCCD, and also other United Nations associates or a lot of United Nations organizations have come up with this disaster that is unfolding before us, which is soil. We talk about global warming and pollution, a lot of stuff, but we never know that the core issue is degradation of soil. That's happening very rapidly. Most of us are not even aware that at least 50% of soil in the United States, US, is gone. And they even say that by 2045 to 2050, 90% of the world's soil will be degraded, which means no food, no nutrition, and widespread migration across the globe. So a lot of alarming things which will happen. It's time we address that. If we take the objective of this movement, Conscious Planet has undertaken and Sadhguru has undertaken, is to bring about policy change across the countries, so that they bring attention to the vital matters, as I said, the degradation of soil. The first thing UN CCD recommends is to bring about an attention in the desired direction across the nation by having policy documents implemented. And unless people support these kind of initiatives, I mean, no government would implement this on a sustainable way. They probably a government will take up this project, and then the next government comes, it will be wiped. So if it has to be long term, then it needs people's support. So that's where volunteer like us and you and me, we should own this movement and spread the word across the globe so that everyone is aware that this is the most critical thing that has to happen, which is to save soil. So they say 1 teaspoon of soil contains more organisms, living organisms, than the humans in the world. So, and they lie within 12 inches of the top soil. And when the farmers plow the land with their tractors up to 9 or 10 inches or 12 inches and leave the land open, the carbon emissions which are stored in the soil evaporates into the atmosphere. And all the organisms which are there in the soil, topsoil, or they will just go away. They will just die in the heat and dryness of the sand. It needs moisture too. And so the idea behind this is to bring vegetation, which to bring in tree cover or vegetation throughout the year. A land cannot be kept open after plowing the land. So that is one thing. And they say that organic content in the soil. Organic content is the microbial life inside the planet. Inside the plant, inside the soil, they are responsible for all the food to be grown. So the organic content in the soil should be around 3 to 6% on an average. In India, it is 0.5%. And I think even in the United States, it's around the same percentage, not even 1% of the required biodiversity within the soil. So which means not just the soil is not just degrading, it is actually eroding. It is just going away. If soil is not there, no life on this planet can survive. So you just name anything, just look around and name anything, the source will be soil. So unless it is there, nothing survives. So the key thing is to make people realize that this is one-stop solution. It also is said that the soil has a capacity to absorb the carbon emissions that are coming out from the industrial economies. So they play very important part in this step against global warming and a lot of other initiatives taken by the world bodies. So soil plays a major role in this. They absorb the carbon emissions and 3 times more than what the plant needs for its survival. So the carbon emissions are stored inside the soil, which these organisms use to convert them into carbon sugars for their survival. They survive on the carbon. So it retains the carbon inside the soil for a longer period. And it's a dual purpose. One is providing the required nutrients and the food for the life to thrive. And the other thing is reducing the carbon emissions. That's what we all are talking about all the time. Global warming and rising temperatures, melting Arctic Ocean, this thing. That's what we've been talking about all these days. But there is a solution for this. If not now, it will take, they say, if not now, at least in the next 45 years, we can turn this around if we act now. If not now, it will take another 100 to 150 years to turn it back, and we will not even live to that extent to see this through, not even the next generation. So it's high time we spread the awareness, and high time we ask the nations to make policy documents in this direction and implement them, irrespective of which government is in force. So that is the initiative and objective behind this initiative.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned, this is high time to spread the message. It's not just high time to spread the message. It's time to take action. We've got to we got to do stuff. We got to make things happen and put policies in place, put implementations so that our soil isn't wasted and degraded and eroded and let to slide away. We've come a long way since the Dust Bowl of the 1930s over here in the US. We've come a long way from there, but we still have a ways to go. It needs to be spread worldwide of these different farming practices and stereotypes of farming that need to be changed. There are lots of stereotypes around plowing the soil every single year with each harvest. You plow after you harvest, and there are new initiatives that show that plowing isn't useful anymore. It doesn't serve the same purpose that it did previously. And so it's in these ancient times, we've always been plowing the soil, right? But if you consider what's going on right now, plowing the soil isn't useful, but it's so stigmatized into farming that it becomes a situation where if somebody doesn't do that, right? If somebody doesn't plow the soil, they're being called like, "Oh, are you the lazy farmer?" Because of the fact that they're not plowing the soil. And it's like, he has these reasons to back it up, and he tries to back it up, but they still, make fun of him and jab at him because it's like, you're not plowing soil, you're just lazy.
Right.
And so it's
Previously,
crazy.
at least, farmers used to have the animals plowing the soil, and the impact on the soil is not much. Nowadays, these are machines, tractors that we use, and we dig up the soil and leave it open. So that's the major concern. So at least the animal waste was just on the land, which actually enriches the organic content in soil. So as I told, to increase organic content is the first objective. How do we do that? Is now we don't have animals on the farm anymore. We have just tractors. So we can only plant trees and just have the soil under cover, under rainy, some kind of shade for the entire year, so that the litters from the tree can actually increase organic.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely a move to go from monoculture to including multiple different
Agro-based
species in a
forestry.
plot. Right, exactly. Because there's a lot to be said where you're not just farming one species in a single area, but having multiple species and even having like trees and all this stuff that like is useful.
The Isha Foundation, they actually started this movement where they actually taught the farmers as to how they can derive economic benefit from bringing in agroforestry into their land. So they guided the farmers as to how they can triple their income. And actually, over the last 10 to 20 years, the farmers who have taken up agroforestry have tripled their income now. So yeah. So the thing is, I mean, when we have tree-based farming instead of the cash crops, what happens is, again, it comes back to the soil richness. All the trees litter that falls on the soil, it keeps the soil under shade, and it increases the soil quality, and your food crop is also going to increase. So it's all a cycle. So a lot of people have benefited from this agroforestry. So this is the solution they're trying to bring in. I mean, I'm so excited to talk about all this in the sense. I mean, we know the solution, but thing is, people and the governments need to act immediately so that we give voice to the living soil, which cannot talk. We have to talk on behalf of the soil. We are as Abdul says, we are soil body. So we are what we eat.
So true. And I mean, it's just crazy when you say these farmers that have implemented agroforestry have tripled their income. I mean, that's just insane. It's just a win-win all around. It's crazy. No, I know Sadhguru, he mentions about soil extinction. Can you talk a little bit more about soil extinction? Like, what is that? What are we worried about there?
So I do not want to go into much of statistics, but the soil is degrading. That's a matter of fact. The organic content is, as I told before, is less than what is needed. So definitely the soil has been degraded. If this continues, we don't increase the organic content, the soil is going to die. So there is no other thing that can happen. So this is what I was referring to as soil erosion, or the soil is just going away. The soil is turning into sand. So if we add organic content into sand, it becomes soil. If we remove the organic content from the soil, it becomes a sand. And we all go through, and we are seeing a lot of floods and famines happening on and on, especially in a country like India, which depends majorly on rainfall for its crops. So what happens is, one half of the year there is rainfall, and another half we need to store the rain for the rest of the year. So for that to happen, soil should have the absorbing capability. So if soil becomes sand, water just floats over the soil, and we can see only floods. And unless soil absorbs the water that is coming through rainfall and sequester it and then releases it to form a river. So unless this happens, unless the river flows, we won't have water throughout the year. So that's what we are seeing. Half of the year we are seeing floods, and half of the year we are seeing droughts. Very bad situation. And this is one practical thing which we are seeing, and which is an indicator that soil is dying. Not to paint any dark picture, but this is what is happening. Unless we see what happens as it is, we won't take the necessary step. It is a dangerous situation what we are heading into. Unless we turn it around now, no one can save the planet. Maybe Elon Musk will find a place in Mars, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, I was hearing something the other day, like Mars is like 3 times more difficult to live on than Antarctica. And there's
Oh,
not a bunch of condos and apartment complexes going up in Antarctica. So I don't know about you, but I like my chances here on Earth a lot better.
unless we keep the Earth better, how will we keep the Mars better? We will ruin Mars also.
Right,
We
exactly,
can keep the
exactly.
thing on hand in a better way. How will we manage a planet which we do not know anything about?
Right. And that we didn't evolve on, it's insane. But they're trying.
I don't know. I mean, this guy is a crazy guy.
He's got some big dreams.
Yeah.
which are great. We need to have aspirational thinkers and very inspiring thinkers who are out there who are, pushing the envelope, because things that we learn and understand about the universe can also help us here on Earth to understand our own planet better. So it does help. But maybe not colonizing other planets might not be the most useful thing. I mean, unless it helps us realize how important it is just to keep Earth safe. So, how would somebody, if they wanted to work against this soil crisis, how can they, get involved? What would you suggest for them?
So as of now, though, it is not going to benefit anyone if people as a group or group of individuals or an individual himself plants trees in his farm or his agricultural land. This is not going to help the cause. So this is a large scale erosion or degradation that is happening, which needs large scale solutions, which only governments of nations can give. So that's why we need policy documents addressing the situation. First, bringing awareness to the situation, what we are facing, is the first thing. Educating the people as to what we are facing, bringing this into educational curriculum. Actually, I think England has brought in this into their curriculum now. Yeah, regarding soil. Most of the European nations have been part of the Save Soil movement, and also Caribbean islands have been part of this. The list is just going on, increasing. So the first thing is to bring in awareness, especially to the younger generation. As to it's actually very sad that we are passing this on to the younger generation. It's we who are ruining this planet. So at least it makes sense to include this as part of curriculum, education, and also spread awareness to reach maximum number of people as you can. That's what I'm trying to do now. So first thing, to spread the word, spread the awareness. And when people understand the real issue and when they support the cause, no government can deny it, because most of the nations are democratic nations. So it's the people who dictate what has to happen. So if everyone, at least the total of at least 50 to 60% of the voting population says that this is what we want our soil back. Unless this is conveyed to the government, nothing is going to happen. They're just going to sit on the policy. Maybe they will draft the policy and just sit on that. It will not be implemented unless we say to the government we vote that we need this to be included as your election manifesto, in your election manifesto. And unless you include soil as one of your promises, we're not going to vote for you. I mean, it's not like that. I mean, we unless people speak up regarding this issue, no government will take it up. So the second thing is policy. As I said, policy and making a policy, each country has to make its own policy document in this direction, and the people support have to be there. And once this is there, the policy will cover all the required solutions like agroforestry and how can we reduce the carbon emissions and how to increase the fertility of the soil. So these things will be part of the educational curriculum and the policy document. And this is done, at least we are making progress in the right direction. And let's see where at least we will be able to reverse some of the worst things which we have done to the planet. So at least if we increase the organic content to maybe by another 1 or 2%, that's a very big achievement, which as we are that generation which can make this happen. If we leave it now, then we're just pushing the burden to the future generation and they cannot turn it back. This is the time when we can turn it back. So spreading awareness, voicing out to your government, and a lot of children in India are writing to the Prime Minister of India to bring about a policy change that has been sponsored by the Save Soil Movement and Conscious Planet. So a lot of children are they're just painting and writing letters to Prime Minister of India. His office is just inundated with a lot of letters coming from school children. So that is also happening. So unless people, when people speak about it, no nation will ignore this. And if all the democratic nation takes up this, then we're good.
Definitely. And if somebody was interested to learn more about the Isha Foundation, where can they go?
We have a website called isha.sadhguru.org. That's the link.
There you go.
That's the link. So that's the official website of Isha Foundation. What they do and what they stand for, what are the projects, various projects that they've taken up, how they've come through since 1998. If you allow me, probably I can just share a flyer which they have put out in this direction, how they've over the timeline in which they have developed these projects. Can I share?
Sure, definitely.
So as I said, this is when they launched this project Green Hands.
Nice.
So they hold this Guinness record for 852,000 trees in a single day. So and they were recognized by UN for economic engagement. And 2010, he received the highest environmental award from the government of India. And they started that tree-based agriculture, which tripled the farmers' income. Also improved the soil capability. And in 2017, 2018, between 2017 and 2019, they launched this rally for rivers. So this is to revitalize 13 rivers across India. And now the government has come up with policy for this river revitalization. This is another project which they started, a group had started to plant some million number of trees across the banks of the rivers, so that as we saw earlier, when rainfall happens, the trees will allow the rainfall to be stored inside the soil, and the soil lets all the rainfall into the river, and thus river will flow for the entire year. That is the project's objective in a nutshell. So then he traveled across India in his car. So he was just driving across India from Kashmir to Kanyakumari with the awareness. And then he implemented something called as Kaveri Calling. This is a river which is there in southern India, in the state which I'm living in. He wanted to plant 2.42 billion trees in the next 12 years to revive the Kaveri. So till now, 125,000 farmers have adopted the tree-based agriculture. And this is part of Kaveri Calling and Rally for Rivers policy initiative. So they planted around 62 million trees. So they're on the right direction. So this is the timeline in which they've traveled in. So I just wanted to show you these things.
No, that is really awesome. I'm really glad you showed us that. That was really cool. And and anybody else will find out more. There's so much more on the Isha Foundation website.
My sincere request will be really, as of now, we need not even spread the word on this project as though it is an Isha Foundation project or Sadhguru's project. It is our project. This is how we should own the project and spread the word. Even if I was not able to express it in a better way, I would suggest that you go through the contents, and if you can make more people listen to your videos, it will be really fantastic. At the end of the day, the message has to reach, and that's more important.
The message needs to get out there. More and more people need to hear about it. Well, Aswin, it was so great having you on here today. Thank you so much for telling us all about these initiatives and things that are happening and why we need to really pay attention to the soil, because it's so important for our livelihood and our support. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Billy. It's nice talking to you.